Mike here, just in the shop, doing a little cleanup here. Things are getting a little congested and disorganized, and I need to make a little room. We got some new projects. I'm going to be tearing down the refrigeration system. I'm going to store some of these compressors that I have. Just generally make a little more room, make it a little easier to work. I have some pretty major copper work I'm going to be doing here shortly, and this is probably about the last run of the Ebullator. At least the first version of the Ebullator. I've gotten this thing to the point where it's relatively easy to control. I seem to understand what's going on. The only mystery that I have right now is what exactly is the content of this thing. I'm running barbecue grade propane, but my temperature pressure relationship doesn't correspond very well. And you know, I could say that it's just my thermistors or my thermocouples that are off a little bit, but they're all off by about the same amount across the pressure temperature curve, at least as far as I can tell roughly. So I think there's some foreign gases in there, maybe maybe an excessive amount of propylene. I'm not exactly sure. So I'm going to be addressing that problem in time. But regardless of what the pressure temperature relationship is, seems to run fairly well. You see she's pretty froze up right now. There's not a lot of air blowing across it. There's a computer fan there. We got about 40 pounds on the PXV. Seems to be working pretty reliably. It's very easy to control. I can adjust the pressure on the power head of that thermostatic expansion valve, which is now a pneumatic expansion valve, and correspondingly change the amount of refrigerant that's emitted to the low side. It's kind of disgusting, but I spit on it once in a while just because I enjoy watching it freeze, and a portion of the saliva never does freeze even at really low temperatures and leaves these very, very tiny little filaments down through. I get some enjoyment out of that. The piece of 1/2-inch outside diameter nylon sight glass seems to be holding just fine. There doesn't seem to be any pressure issues. It hasn't swollen or anything like that, unlike the high density polyethylene. Haven't noticed any leaking on the compression fittings. Not that I would necessarily install this for some kind of a permanent appliance or something, but for research it's interesting and it's useful, and I'm going to be exploiting this this material more in the near future. It's got some pretty crazy looking ice formation on it. That's actually because a breaker tripped and it shut down and thawed a little bit, and then I started it back up. We are running with a air-cooled condenser. This came out of the same air conditioner this little 3.5 horsepower rotary compressor came from, and I'm pretty pleased with the whole system. Going to be doing some more work with these thermocouples that I installed directly in the refrigerant line. Those work quite well. I think in the next model I'm actually going to probably eliminate the receiver, and it's a high side liquid receiver, and I'm going to focus more on containing most of the refrigerant in the low side. This separator column in the center holds a pretty large mass of liquid refrigerant, and I think I'm going to probably just focus on keeping most of the refrigerant there. It'll be important that I have something of a critical charge, but it'll take a little less refrigerant to charge it, and I'm also a little bit concerned about oil migration and stuff, and possibly settling down in that receiver. Of course, it could be settling in this device here as well. So I'm going to try to keep this relatively brief because I could just keep rambling on, but I'll introduce this 8,000 BTU per hour air conditioner that I received recently. It's past its service life, and I'm going to be harvesting some parts out of it. The compressor I'm not going to be using initially, but I'm sure it'll get some use later on. It's the coils that I'm mostly interested in. The evaporator coils in fine shape, as they usually are. The condenser coil on the outside, where easily get a lot of abuse, but I'm sure that I will end up straightening most of those out and still using that coil because it's relatively large and the price was right. What I am going to be doing is I was going to use this, I don't have it right here, there's another evaporator coil that came out of the air conditioner I was working with. I was going to modify that. This one actually is a little bit larger and looks like it's going to be even easier to modify and make this thing into a gravity flooded system, where I'll feed low pressure liquid to the bottom, just as it is here in this dry type evaporator setup, and then I'll be drawing off vapor off the top of the evaporator at 2 ports, very similar to the way this one does as well. The only difference being it won't be a continuous flow from the high side, from the metering device through and then straight back to the compressor. It'll actually circulate through a separator column, and then vapor drawn off that column can be drawn back to the compressor. The flow through the evaporator will be dictated by the amount of heat actually being absorbed by the cold coils and the refrigerant therein, creating a thermosiphon effect that allows it to roll, boil over, if you will. But I do like the way this air conditioner is constructed a little better. A little heavier components. I like the way it's plumbed a little bit better. And then, of course, along with the coils, I'll be utilizing the fans as well, because of the cowlings and stuff are already there, and the mounting hardware and everything is already there. And what I'll be doing is probably mounting that evaporator coil. Might just end up right on this bench, or if I rearrange the shop somewhere else in here, I'm not sure. And I also have to decide if I'm going to continue using the air-cooled condenser, or if I'm going to switch back to the water-cooled condenser and pipe that hot water outside through a water radiator. I'm mostly concerned about working on the Ebullator version 2, the fin version, because there's going to be some special copper work. I'm going to try to recreate some fittings somewhat like this in various different sizes for different portions of it. It's going to be funny looking, but I need to get finished cleaning the shop up here so I can get into some copper work. So anyway, this is probably the last video for this thing. I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to end up probably harvesting a few flare fittings off of it. The sight glass hardware is going to get harvested off, and eventually all of these coils are going to get cut off. I'm going to put spring benders on them, straighten them out as best I can, pinch them up in the vise, and straighten them so I can reuse them. Reuse the copper, that is, because there's quite a bit in there, and I'm not scrapping that. It's wound to a large enough radius that I think I should be able to straighten it without a whole lot of waves, and certainly not any kinks. So anyway, thanks for watching my videos. If you keep up with this stuff, and there'll be a lot more to come.